was a long time ago. I was 12 years old then. I remember my parents sold the house and we stayed for a week with our neighbors before leaving for another city. Their house was gloomy. You could say old. But on the other hand, it seemed like they had renovated it from the outside. We all slept in one big room. I remember how it happened a couple of days before leaving. We went to bed. I couldn't fall asleep for a long time. And the most interesting thing is that the feeling of fear was heightened in me. I lay there, kept tossing and turning, tried to fall asleep somehow, but it didn't work out. The night was moonlit, since the room was light from the moon. Suddenly, I wanted to go to the toilet, but I was afraid to get up and go, and everyone was sleeping nearby. After lying there for a while, I finally decided to get up and go to the toilet. I get up, leave the room where everyone is sleeping, go into the kitchen to go turn on the light and get to the toilet. And suddenly I see how in the darkness without light, at the kitchen table, someone is sitting. I see a form dark from the moonlight that comes into the kitchen through the window. The most interesting thing is that by the appearance of the person sitting at the table, I realized that it was a man. Well, I thought, maybe Dad was sitting here and fell asleep at the table. But on the other hand, why is he without light and sitting in such a pose? Not like the pose of a sleeping person. After looking at him for a couple of seconds, I decided to ask, Dad, what are you doing here in the dark? But he is silent and seems to remain in this pose without moving. I became wildly scared, but I still believe that it was most likely Dad who fell asleep. Although he is sleeping in that room now, I can't tell you how scared I was at that moment. My hair stood on end. Goosebumps ran all over my body, and the feeling of fear went off the scale to the limit. I remember how I reached for the light switch in the kitchen and, having turned it on, suddenly discovered that there was no one at the table. He just disappeared. At that moment, I almost passed out from fear. I didn't want to go to the toilet and ran like a bullet into my bed and covered my head and tried to fall asleep, shaking with wild fear. Here is an incident from my life. The black silhouette of a man who was sitting at the kitchen table was clearly visible in the darkness.